What's going on, Cowboys Nation? Welcome to another edition of the Star Game Podcast, which you got Nix, Spoon, and Mariella. Just finishing up our Memorial Day weekend and holiday. How was y'all's holiday, y'all?
It was Adventurist.
Adventurist? Oh, fair enough. We know.
That's my new word.
Yeah, we know. Spoon was barbecuing at like 7 p.m. because apparently 85 degrees in New York is sweltering. Is what we learned for Spoon.
Too hot. 85 is too hot for me. We had some good old nice chicken, sausage, some vegan burgers. That was interesting.
Yeah, well, I actually traditionally grilled on the actual holiday of Monday for Memorial Day, and a little bit of the same. None of that vegan burger stuff here in Texas. We had some of that ground chuck burgers going, and we also had some sausage, some brats, some hot dogs, and little chicken, little pork chop. Yeah, we pretty nice. Got pretty full. Got a little tipsy. Little shout out to the Tito's. Going around.
Yeah,
but
so I had real quick. On Sunday, I had some. I don't know if y'all ever had it from the Mexican meat market. The already seasoned fajita meat.
Oh yes.
Oh, it was so good.
Yes.
It was amazing.
Spoon, what to show you about that when you come back down?
Yes.
Oh yes, please.
What to spin you by that and let you see what it's working with.
Yeah.
But with that being said, after the great Memorial Day weekend, we got to chop it up some and have some pretty cool stuff here to look at with the OTAs finally upon us. Some actual football stuff here to talk about. Let me see what for y'all. One big thing that popped out for me, I'll say, is the early work. We kind of felt, and we kind of talked about this before, the early work of Connor Williams at tackle already, left and right already getting worked in there. We know he had beefed up with the 15 pounds of muscle, and that was going to help him with his strength, that he struggled with at guard, but already getting some work at tackle could be some keys that we see later on if there happens to be a trade with some of the depth that they have. What about y'all, Mary? Or what about you in particular, Mary? What did you, OTA, what stood out to you?
So just one more thing on Connor Williams. So we know he gained the weight, but I was also just reading that he started out benching 315. He's now benching 365.
Oof.
So
strength.
It's good weight and it's strength. So let's just hope it can translate to the field on game day. Another thing I noticed was our offense is loving so far what Kellen Moore has done. The young guys too, John Bay Johnson, free agent we got after the draft. Tony Pollard, I know there was one practice where he took it and weaved in and out and ran for like 50 yards. So let's just keep it going and do that. Starting week one against the Giants.
Good to see, like you said, with Pollard and of course the rookie Johnson, the free agent that we brought in, Johnson. Speed was on display, no doubt. Pollard, man, that was your guy, Spoon. I know some of that pre-draft talk. I know you're over there like a proud papa right now, looking at him showing out already in OTAs. But outside of Pollard, what did you take? What was your one big takeaway from the OTAs that you saw?
Well, besides Pollard, I liked this kid, Javier Johnson from Toledo, the wide receiver. Some very good things I'm hearing about him. Basically, his breakaway speed, how he can get into the second level. His route running is so crisp. He's really made himself out of the wide receiver group. And also Michael Jackson, the cornerback from the Hurricanes. Christopher Shaw, he loves his size. He's very long. He could play outside corner. He could play some slot. He brings that versatility they could use in a secondary. So,
Yeah, I saw some nice tape breakdown of Jackson, too, as well. Not just an athlete, pretty smart. Football IQ seems to be pretty big with him as well. Notice some of the film I was looking at. I don't know about y'all, and I tried to find out about this. I don't know like what my level of concern should be for this, but Adventurist, didn't participate in Wednesday's activities. Pelvic issue.
Right.
I'm like, it's kind of vague. It's not per se saying hip, but it could be hip. I mean, I don't know. And like, I couldn't find anything. So maybe it was more just precautionary than anything. But, as we've seen before, when we start doing OTAs, right? Remember the year of hamstrings? Oh, it's a hamstring. It's just going to be a couple of weeks. Goodness. It's not a big deal. And then next thing we know, it's like all through the daggum preseason. Nobody's playing. So what do y'all think? Have y'all seen anything, Mary, or on the pelvic issue, or just is it a blip or is it a concern?
I'm leaning towards that it's just a blip. Yeah. They saw, they know what they have in him now. They saw how amazing his rookie year was, and they just don't want to do anything that's going to risk his season, stretching it or making it worse. I think if it was in the middle of the season, he would be playing.
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I dug deep because when I start seeing those kind of injuries on a guy, I'm a little concerned. Yeah. I couldn't find anything, so I'm like, I don't think I should overreact and be too worried about it right here. I think you're right, too. I think maybe if it was actual game time, he's probably going to play, but pelvic is just so vague. It's just so vague.
They probably did that on purpose. Very strategic of them.
And then, of course, Spoon, as we saw around the web, and we were on some groups and talking about this, John Kitna, the new quarterback coach for Dak,
yes,
had some things to say. Basically said, he played with a guy that he reminded him of in Warren Moon. That definitely stirred the pot some. What do you think about that take from Mr. Kitna?
Well, listen, and I know a lot of fans had their own opinion on it because of John Kitna's career in the NFL, and I was like, wow. Listen, John Kitten has been with the Cowboys as a backup behind Tony Romo for a couple of seasons. Just because he didn't have a good career with Detroit doesn't mean that he doesn't know what he's talking about. But it just felt great to hear that how him and Dak Prescott are getting along. His mechanics are crisp. But he compared him to Warren Moon, a guy that he play with for a couple of years, and I think that's an exciting news for Cowboys fans to hear, because we all know Dak Prescott can get better in a lot of areas. So when you hear the news like being compared to a Hall of Fame quarterback and his mechanics, how he has that tight spiral, that should make you excited for the season coming up.
Yeah. I think, a lot of people are always talking about we needed a veteran on the team, to be in Dak's ear, and getting Kitten, I think, in that position allows him to develop these young guys and not to, settle down a vet. And Kitten is saying, I mean, it's awesome, when you hear a player get, compared to a guy who's an all-time great in Warren Moon. That's you like to hear that stuff. Obviously right now it's going to be all the roses going to be handed out and everything. The one thing I definitely like from Kitten that he said was, when they're breaking down tape, he's like, don't throw it here. I've already paid for that sin. I've thrown that pick. Don't do it. And I like hearing that from him and how they're interacting. I think it's going to be really good. I really do. I think that's going to be really good for Dak moving forward. But maybe the biggest thing, those are some of our takeaways, but obviously the biggest thing that most of Cowboys Nation wants to talk about and see, and how much is it real? How much isn't it real? Is it going to change or not? Was the Kellen Moore. And we heard the words, I think it was evolution of the Cowboys offense. I believe that's how Jason Garrett said it. Mm-hmm. The evolution of the Cowboys offense. And as Mary had mentioned a little while ago, we had the young players talking about seeing and doing, and some of the veterans were like, hey, he trusts us to, tell him and give him feedback. But the thing I was always concerned about was, it's just going to be Garrett's system, but he's just going to call different plays or whatever. But then we got to hear the key stuff of, there's new verbiage coming in. There's new packages being put out there. So obviously the first OTA with all the team here and what's going on. We haven't got to preseason, but I was pretty excited about some of that stuff. And it looks to me that it's not going to be Garrett with his foot, or his thumb, I guess I should say, on Kellen and trying to tell him what to do. Mary, I know you was reading something about it as well, and was like, the fresh air as you were talking about. In like, even I think was it Witten that said something about it too?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of been multiple players giving praise to guys that were very familiar with Scott Lanahan's system that are now experiencing what Kellen Moore is doing, and they are all on board. They all feel like they have some input. They all feel comfortable coming to Moore and saying, what about this? What about this? So that's a big improvement just off the rip right there, even though we haven't seen much of anything. The fact that, I know we've all heard from other teams we all watch across the NFL. A lot of times their players get heavily involved in their offense and their coaches are willing to listen to them. And we just haven't had that here.
At all. Yeah, at all. Go ahead, Spoon, jump in there. Go ahead, Spoon, jump in there.
Oh, listen. When you hear the interviews, they sound so excited, which was that's a big change for what we know about last season with Linehan, and big time. And hey, another thing is what I like from what Dak says, that he also listens to the players. He listens to the players. So that makes me feel so good that if during the season, if Dak sees something that Kellen Moore's not saying, he allows the players to speak their mind and go, hey, coach, listen, I know you want us to run this, but this is what we're saying. And that's great communication. I remember, I can recall last season, it was a Fox game. They show a clip of Dak Prescott on the phone. He's speaking to Kellen Moore. Not Kellen Moore, Scott Linehan. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, you see him get off the phone. He makes a funny face. He tells Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore makes a funny face, and they look like shaking their heads, like, yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I was like,
see,
that's that BS right there.
Listen, we all know that Scott Linehan also bought over Kellen Moore. He basically drafted when he was in Detroit, so it's like he knew things need to be changed, and these players sound so excited. Even Ezekiel Elliott and Michael Irvin came out and said that he had a different feeling about Kellen Moore, but the players changed his mind. They basically went up to Irvin and go, nah, not what. It's not like that. Trust and believe.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you got to listen, and that was the thing too. That we all experienced this as Cowboys fans. We knew it was like, hey, we got one game plan on offense. If it works, hey, great. If it doesn't work, there's no adjusting. He's just going to keep doing the same thing. So, as excited as we are, it's cool to see like the players as excited like how we feel about it as well. Of course, how much of it we really see in preseason with all the vanilla stuff being out there, maybe not a whole lot. And, of course, people will overreact then. Oh, it's the same stuff. It's like, wait till week one. Yeah. But, yeah, the evolution and just, listening and talking, I'm sure Dez is like, oh, well, too bad that couldn't happen, before you got rid of me. Jason Witten's like, oh, Scott Linehan's gone. I'll come back and play. That's not really what he said. But in my mind, I feel like that's how it worked out.
I agree. I feel like that's what happened.
Yeah, but with everyone in love with the honeymoon phase of what's happening right now with Kellen Moore, we got a lot of contract rumors out here all of a sudden. We knew the Dak thing was coming up, but we hear there's been contact with Jalen. We got contact with Zeke. We got contact with Amari Cooper. Mary, what you Amari? Is it the weight game? Is that where we're at? Is it just he's going to wait and see what Julio does, or does he have a number?
I think that all of our young guys think it's in their best benefit to wait, and they're right. It is, but it's not for the team.
Oh well, yeah, the more money.
Like. We're talking about how great we hope this offense is going to be, our optimism for the defense. If all of that stuff actually happens, then we're definitely going to lose somebody because their stock is going to go way up. So that being said, I'm holding out hope. Amari's contract 16 to 18 per year, and it gets done here by the end of training camp, somewhere around there.
Yeah, sooner the better. I'm with you.
Dak, I know we've all been talking about at least 30 mil. I'm still looking for the 28.
Looking for the hometown discount. The hometown discount.
Yeah, I'm holding out hope for that. I know it's not much, a $1.5-2 million difference, but it'll make me feel so much better.
Right. And I will say, everyone's losing their minds about this Dak deal. I mean, because that's one of the other contracts. Apparently, the Cowboys offered him a contract, and then they rejected it and gave, the Cowboys their counter offer. I couldn't find numbers on it anywhere. I haven't heard any numbers, whichever side did offer what. So there's no numbers out there for people to get, over the moon about it. I'm cool with 30 million. You look at percentage of cap, 30 is fine for me. I don't want to be in the 35 range. Mm-hmm. I think 30 is really good. Again, it's more than Kirk, and it's less than, A-Rod and Russ Wilson. So that's kind of where he should be at. So 30 million, it's about 15 to 16% of the cap. Yeah. I think we can still re-sign the big players we want. Sure. Right. Will you lose a Cole Beasley? Yeah, you're going to lose a Cole Beasley here and there. But I mean, if you want your big guys, that's going to happen. You'll lose a La'el Collins probably. But if you want your big guys, you can get them. We'll see. Spoon.
Well, listen. I'm with Mary. Even though it's not our money, but we want to keep a lot of guys. Jalen Smith is coming up. Especially him. That's a big one right there. We know Byron Jones coming up, but I think we already feel with the draft, these cornerbacks like Michael Jackson, I think they're preparing themselves for that. But
right. And and they've made contact with all these other guys, and Byron Jones hasn't been contacted. So if we're reading the tea leaves there, it's kind of telling us maybe, you lose a Cole Beasley, but it's signing all these guys, and maybe you lose a Byron Jones. We have to wait and see how that plays out.
Right. And listen, Russell Wilson, he basically signed for 35. Big Ben redid his contract. He signed for 34. Aaron Rodgers right now is at 33. Matt Ryan's at 30. Now, Stephen Jones made a statement some months back. He says that, he definitely wants to re-sign Dak, get a nice friendly deal where he could they could re-sign his teammates as well, basically keep the star players together. But another key thing he did say is Super Bowl. Those quarterbacks up there, they won championship. They won a Super Bowl. So Russell Wilson won, Big Ben won, Aaron Rodgers won, Matt Ryan at least went.
He went. Yeah.
He went. But so Kirk Cousins, he signed for 28. Jimmy Garoppolo, who, that's one of my main arguments, didn't even play a snap, and he already got 27 mil and just only 6 games. So I'm cool with Dak getting between 29 and 30.
Yeah.
That's my range, 29 and 30. But, there's always 31 mil and.
Oh, yeah.
But that's okay. That's fine.
Right. And then, of course, another part of the three-headed monster, Ezekiel Elliott, which they also talked to. Now, I think that's going to cool a little bit now. The Vegas thing happened because, they were contacting him and they were talking about the extension before Vegas. Now the Vegas thing's happened. Is that going to kind of cool that off now? What y'all think, Spoon? What do you got on that?
Ooh, you know what? It may not cool it off, but you're going to have to put some language in that contract. I mean, really, they're going to give. I wouldn't be surprised if before this Vegas thing, he would have got maybe like 15 to 16 mil, maybe even 17. But now this thing happened, he may go with the Todd Gurley range, a little bit lower, about like 13 and 14 with some kind of language in this. You get in trouble, you lose this amount of money. You got to, in my opinion.
Protect yourself a little bit, obviously.
Right.
I think obviously the starting is $14 million. Did Vegas cost, and Mary, I'll ask you this, did Vegas cost him making more than $14 million?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We have an owner who's also a GM and not at risk of losing his job. And Jerry does not care what the media thinks. He does not even care what the fans think. He's got a player that he knows can compete, that he knows is ready on game day, and that the fans love. And the only thing I see happening is maybe it delays it. You know, maybe they pull a situation like Des Bryant. They waited until the very last second to get that deal done.
No doubt. Yeah, they did wait till the last second. I definitely think it cools it off as far as getting it done sooner. I think.
Yeah.
I think it's probably going to be in that position of let's get the official report back from the NFL. Are you missing games? You're not missing games, and then maybe they try to seal the deal. I always thought he was going to be in the 15, 16 million range. Is kind of what I expected. I'm with you, Spoon. I think same thing. I think there has to be some language in there. There just does. There just has to be some language in there going forward, no matter what the payday is. You know, and then of course to circle back to Jalen Smith real quick. You know, not just the story it's been and everything. Like, I'm really enjoying now seeing them be more proactive with these guys. Like, they don't have to talk to these guys right now. And like, no, hey, this is the core that we want, that we're going to build around, and we're doing and going out, and we're going to get these guys locked up. You know, right. even to an extent, you know, because we had our conversations, you know, behind the scenes before, you know, we were recording, and I was like, you know, I just didn't like, you know, Steven telling me, hey, we don't go spend because we spend on our own guys, and then you tagged Tank again. And I'm like, no, put your money where your mouth is, paying, which, I mean, they did. Great job. You know, I commend that. Great job. And now seeing them being more proactive and not have to get to those tags and stuff like that, it just frees up more money when you're able to do stuff.
Yeah, and let's be clear, if they had signed DeMarcus Lawrence the year before, $17
million,
they could have saved some money.
Yeah, they could have got him for $17 million.
And they could have easily put into his contract, you know, the injury stuff, or, you know, incentives for staying healthy, incentives for sacks, games played. They could have done all that and got him for 17, and instead we're paying 21.5.
It's going to look like a steal next year. Like, don't worry, Mary, it's fine. It's fine. It's 2 years from now, that number's going to look so small. Don't worry about it. But yeah, for sure. I mean, they could have had a deal done for him, you know, last year for 17, and you know, I mean, those are the breaks. But salary cap goes up next year, you know, before we get to this lockout. So there's that. But since we did talk about Zeke's contract and the Vegas situation a little bit cooling off, let's dive into that. You know, Jerry did say he didn't expect anything. He also said that when Zeke got suspended for 6 games. The NFL.
I have a theory on this whenever you're ready.
Oh, no. Okay. I'm coming to you. Hang on, Mary. And then, of course, now the reports out there, the NFL is definitely going to look at it. If you see the video, for those, I mean, it's a little bit older news now, but we want to touch on it here. I mean, obviously, Zeke was a little inebriated at where he was. The guy, he didn't really push the guy. I mean, he got into the guy's face, and the guy, you know, stepping back, trips over the barricade, doesn't press charges. Zeke's handcuffed. They release him. No fouls are charged, and it's all good. Now, that's where we are. Go ahead, Mary. Give me the theory.
So if you go back and look, I don't know, maybe over the most recent suspensions just across the league, the ones that you're more likely to see an issue with, whether the NFL does give an actual suspension, is for substance abuse, performing-enhancing drugs, or for domestic violence. So when there's ever been another issue, whether it was, I know Nigel Bradham, he punched a guy in the face,
right,
was charged for it, got 1 game. Then there was Jarvis Landry. He had an issue with his baby mama that was on camera.
Mm-hmm.
There was no suspension there. And in that situation, I believe, I don't think that the NFL said this, but in that situation, the girlfriend or the baby mama, not only did she not press charges, but she didn't cooperate with the NFL. Mm-hmm. I think that the main reason Zeke was suspended to begin with was because he showed a pattern of, okay, the St. Patty's Day thing while you're being investigated, the boat party while you're being investigated, and then on top of that, the woman that was accusing him, she was fully cooperating with the NFL. Even though investigators said she wasn't credible, all that, she was fully cooperating. So they had a complaining witness in that situation. All these other situations don't have a complaining witness. Even with Reuben Foster, who was most recently given just a fine, he's had multiple incidents, 3 or 4 incidents, and she recanted every time. And this last time didn't cooperate with the NFL. So I think they really only care if they have a complaining witness.
Maybe, or, the black eye on the league. I mean, there's that, the shield and all this. And I think you're onto something there for sure. With the complaining witness, I can definitely see that. Just like with Damian Wilson, actually with us last year, and there was an issue with the truck backing up, whatever. He brandished a gun, and charges were dropped. Nothing ever came of it. He was never suspended, even.
Exactly.
Which definitely blew my mind on that. For Zeke, the thing that worries me the most is, from that first suspension, though, it's anything detrimental to the league. If he does something, it can be a ban from the NFL, not just per se games.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going there, right? I don't think any of us think it's going there, but I never thought he was going to get 6 games either. And the whole thing was a mess, not to recant all that, but it should have been domestic violence. It should have easily been conduct detrimental to the league, 4 games, boom, done, move on with your lives. Instead, it's all this extra stuff, and now here we are again with, what does the NFL want to do, Spoon?
Listen, it's especially when the person you hired to do the investigation comes back and says he's innocent. You still went on and gave him 6-game suspension. That's what bothered me the most. You basically came out and said, I'm going to hire somebody with expertise who knows how to do all of this. The person came back and said he's innocent. And Goodell still did it. So I look at it as a Goodell used Zeke as an example. It's like, when you're a Dallas Cowboy, when you wear that star on your head, basically you get the most attention. So in my opinion, that's what it was. Goodell wanted to get the attention of everybody in the world, everybody who's in the NFL. Yeah. I'm going to give a star player 6-game suspension, even though the person who I hired said he's innocent in their opinion. You went above them and says, nah, we don't care. He's suspended. It got everybody's attention. Yeah. And, Zeke was fighting for it. He was fighting the whole time. So listen, I'm not going to go out as somebody who abused women. I'm going to fight mine. But,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. But
so how does Vegas play into that now, though?
You see, now, when it comes to this thing with Vegas, what scary is, okay, we have to look back. Okay, it was one of the incidents he had on that float. I forgot what was the event, but he was on a float with a young lady, and he pulled off her top.
Right.
Oh, yeah, the St. Patty's Parade.
It was a St. Patty's Parade.
St. Patty's Parade, all right, thank you. Now, here's the thing. He was drinking.
Yeah.
He was drinking. What do you see in this video? He was drinking. For some reason, every time he's drinking, he does something that may seem out of character. That he may be embarrassing himself. The NFL will take it when you're embarrassing the Shield. You're making us look bad. And that's what scares me the most. Can we prove he was drunk? No. Was he arrested for being intoxicated? No, none of that. He was basically detained and just being held up and let go later on. So, but it's how the league's going to look at it because they could see the way they want to see and make any ruling the way they want to make it.
I was supremely surprised they didn't lock him up for public intoxication.
Right.
I was pretty surprised by that. The alcohol could be the culprit, like you said, drinking on the patties. On the during the parade, obviously drinking at least that much about the inebriation he had. The thing that I love about Zeke, is the big kid likeness of him in the locker room and stuff. But that's kind of the thing that gets him in trouble off the field. And, I don't think Zeke is particularly a bad guy.
Right.
But once we start continuously seeing things, well, you're a creature of habit. And if you keep kind of getting into the same things, I mean, he's still a young kid. I get it. And I think, Mary, you brought this up when we were having a roundtable talk, that when he goes out anywhere with Dak, or if he goes anywhere with teammates, there's never any issues. There's never any issues whatsoever. All good. And he's drinking with them too, but you've got somebody there that's doing something. It's kind of when he gets off on his own, and then things kind of maybe get out of hand for him, like we talked about, Spoon. Who's the player that do it the greatest of all time as far as having fun and staying out of trouble?
W. Jeter.
Yeah, the Jeter rules.
Buy his book.
Gotta buy the book. Somebody needs to get it. Yeah,
go to Amazon.
The book.
It's there.
Yeah.
If I may, I don't want Cowboy Nation to think that we trying to we backlashing on Zeke. We think he's a good guy. He did a lot of great things this off season before the incident. A lot of great things for family who basically went through some personal situations. He's always taking pictures with his moms, doing fun things. Things like he did at the hockey game where the kid got hit with, I believe, with a puck. And he's a good guy. But as a young player, not only him, but a lot of young players got to understand that you're going to have a lot of people out there who are basically just looking at you and waiting for you to drink, and they want that quick buck. They want to do something to provoke you just to be on YouTube or whatever and cause that lawsuit. But listen, I'm going to get paid, so let's work this out before you get in trouble, before I speak. And these guys got to understand, you got to stay away from people like that. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to go out and have a drink or go out with a young lady or whatever, have some bodyguards. Have somebody who's going to be able to be your extra eyes and ears to make sure that you're good, that you can have a good time. Go to the place, go home good. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, I was telling some other people, like, I really think that sometimes he forgets that he's famous. Like, he forgets that there's a camera on you at all times. And he has to understand that. He has to remember that. I think, as a comparison, Dez was like that in the beginning too. Like, he, was just this country boy from Longview, Texas. And Lufkin. Lufkin.
Okay.
And from Lufkin, and he's just, he comes into all this money. He wants to enjoy it. He wants to have fun, but at the end of the day, he's still a regular guy, and he wants to live his life. And he doesn't realize that people want to test you. They want what you have. They want their name in a headline.
Yeah.
And you got to remember that.
And especially when you got the star on, we know that,
Yeah.
And it's like that's a good example, like Dez and Zeke, because it's the opposite end of the spectrum. Dez came from nothing, had to really grind and make his way, and made it, and still got caught up in some of those things early on. Zeke's basically the polar opposite of that, because they're the same but different, because he was coddled and babied, and both the parents had, did this, and they moved up to college with him and made sure he was good while he was in college and nothing was going to happen. And then he's in the NFL now. Okay, we're still here. And it's almost like he needs that structure. Like Dez was finding his way. Dez never really had that structure. Right. Once he found his way, he turned the corner. And I mean, look, like Spoon said, it's not about bagging on Zeke here whatsoever. We all definitely understand he's a young man, and again, what makes him great, the big kidism, is what gets him in trouble too when he's, off on his own. It's just a smidge more maturity, because, I mean, you're due for a payday that can play with your money. You got caught in a situation, as we talked about, that got you to 6 games, in language in there that could cost you your career, with Article 46 and Roger Goodell having, he's the judge, executioner, the whole 9. Which will be one of the big reasons why we'll have a lockout, because Article 46, I guarantee, will not be in the next CBA. The players will definitely get that out of there. And then, of course, I will say this. You're valuable. Don't get it. For sure you are. But this thing doesn't stop. this wheel keeps on going. And if he, doesn't get right, the Cowboys will say, we'll tag you once and we'll move forward, And I would hate to see that for a guy because he's a generational running back. I just don't want to see, whether it's on Dallas or a different team, I don't want to see Zeke, lose his livelihood and stuff like that for some simple things that could be corrected.
If I may add real quick, just to bring Dak into this, what was cool, the Cowboy Nation, and I know I read it, Dak Prescott, after this incident, Dak Prescott went back home to his family. He brought Zeke with him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw that.
He brought Zeke with him. He said, you come in with me and my family and spend some time. That's leadership right there, looking out for your teammate, your brother.
Completely agree. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was reading that too, and that's what I instantly thought about Dak. I'm like that. I mean, besides just being a teammate, that's family, that's love. Like him coming to him and saying, "Look, we're gonna go to Louisiana. We're gonna hang out with my family,
fish,
do all this stuff." Because that's one of Dak's favorite things. He loves to fish. So
catfish.
Hey, and ladies and gentlemen. That's why Dak's worth the $30 million.
Yeah, I mean,
the leadership on top of everything else that he does. It's the intangibles and the stuff that he does.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to probably wrap it up here for us. Appreciate y'all tuning in. What you need to do to find us, YouTube, Deep in the Huddle, and you'll actually get our Deep in the Huddle podcast along with the Stargame podcast, Stargame group. All of us here will be putting it out there. Absolutely unequivocally come follow us, talk with us, chat with us. You got questions, send them to one of us. We'll see. We might be getting a mailbag going here soon, especially when training camp gets going and we can start backlogging some of them questions and get some of that stuff ready. Spoon, Mary, y'all got anything before we get out of here?
Go Cowboys.
How about them Cowboys? Hey, you know what? I got one more thing to say. This reminds me of the 95 team.
That death, yeah. That's some of that.
Close they are with each other. Ooh, and
ladies and gentlemen, what Spoon just did in the business is dropped you with the tease that will be coming later as soon as we get to this training camp and we had the training camp show. I like it, Spoon. Just tease him a little bit. That 95 though.
95.
We're gonna get out of here. Hey, we're gonna get out of here on that. We appreciate y'all.